Yeah, so I started about a year and a half ago, and there was already a big bulk of assets that had been in-game, levels that had been made, demos that had been produced, and existing concept art. So it was actually not too hard. Like, we have a very unique style, but that was also part of what drew me to the studio in the first place, and applying was Hob and how stylized and unique it was. So it was just kind of like a couple month process of getting ramped up on the art style and being like, okay, I can emulate this and have it kind of seamlessly fit into the world. And there was a lot of good stuff to pull from, and also just good references that everyone on the team likes. Like, I think when I interviewed, they immediately brought up that the game is based on kind of like games that we all played in our childhoods, like Ico, Shadow of Colossus. I'm a big Journey fan, and those are all narrative light but mood heavy games, and the mood kind of becomes a vessel for the story. There's definite parts in all three of those games where you can easily feel in the atmosphere like what's happening or anticipate something that's about to happen, whether it's a weighty emotional moment or something kind of nice and a little happier. So I think just, I've talked about it before to kind of fans, and on a stream we did, that there are artistic influences in the game, but almost more so we're influenced by like the mood of other games, and like how do you craft a mood. And part of it is animation, part of it is sound, part of it is art, part of it is just you physically moving through the world. And I think we all have to work together closely to do that. So it's a lot of communication.
So you mentioned that when you joined the team, you had to I actually never really thought about this, but you have to emulate what somebody else is already doing.
Yeah.
How do you go about that? Like, how do you just?
Personally, it's not too hard. I am pretty chameleon-like. I've freelanced a lot before now, and so my style, it's not like very super unique to me. I can kind of easily, flex from one style to another. And I, like I mentioned, like I had seen, so back in summer 2015 was when Runic announced that they were working on Hob for PAX, and I saw the stuff from it and was like, I could do that. And so that's what made me apply, was the art style. But it's a lot of observation and like studying what the other artists have done and what's already in game. So there are a ton of concept artists who've actually touched this game. I believe we're on 5 or 6 right now, and everyone has kind of brought their own flavor to the mix while still staying on style and kind of emulating it. It's a lot of rectilinear and curvilinear shapes, and it's with a big emphasis, because it is a stylized game, the concentration of like detail and rest is very specific, and if it's off just by a little bit, it's very obvious that it's off by a little bit. So yeah, it's a lot of like observation and being able to look at another artist's style, or just the general style of our game, and being able to kind of analytically break down the components of it, and then look at your own work and being able to self-evaluate and be like, am I hitting these benchmarks?
So were you around when the visual style had already been finalized, or did you join when you guys were still finalized?
So I think, the style is always evolving slightly. It kind of does like an exponential change at the beginning. There's a lot of so to answer your question, I was not around at the beginning when we were establishing the style. The game had been in progress for a year, 2 years maybe when I jumped on. So by then the style had been set, and it was up to me now to kind of pick up the football and bring it, to the next goal and to the next sign and to all the way to ship. So I wouldn't say that it's changed too much since I started. We've tried to stick on the same guideline the whole way, and it's not just the concept artists that are establishing the art style. It's also working with the environment artists and the character artists, who are the next step in the pipeline, and kind of saying, okay, well, Jeremy does things this way and Tim does things this way, so I should learn their approach and kind of design for them and see what they need to see, and not give them a concept that doesn't play to their strengths, so that they're not going to be able, or that they have to be like, oh God, she's so off mark. Now I have to do a lot of work to kind of bring it back in line with the art style. So everyone kind of has to be on the same page. But yeah, everyone was familiar with it by the time I started, so I had to catch up.
So when you're designing the art of the game, I'm assuming you work with like the sound designers to kind of make the art and the sound kind of all mesh together. What's that process like?
It's a lot of just kind of blue skying and be like, what if we did this? For sound is incredibly, incredibly important. It's 50% of the experience, honestly. You know, you can close your eyes or you can plug your ears, and that's basically how you experience a game. There's some haptic controller feedback, but not much. It doesn't really add. So mostly what we talk about when I talk to Coach Yoon about sound is like, it's not like, oh, I wanna hear like a metal sound here, I wanna hear this sound here. We're more like, well, what's the story we're trying to tell here? I don't know if I can talk about it, but we had a moment where we had a character, a creature that was gonna sing during a story moment. And so instead of being like, well, it should be a bird song, or like we didn't jump ahead of ourselves and like get into the detail. We were more like, okay, well, why is it singing? Maybe what is it trying to say with the song? How can we tie this in to the location that it's at? Because in our game, the setting is kind of a character in its own. It doesn't just take place in this random science fiction world. The world is kind of alive around you, and we wanted to try and imply some deeper story that way. And you know, I don't want to tell him like, I created this creature based on a duck, so you should make it sound like a duck. Like, he's the expert. So I'm kind of like, well, this creature lives in this habitat, and he interacts with the characters like this, and kind of, I give Coach Yoon more of like a sense of maybe the character and like his personality, and then let him run with it.
So the duck deer sings now?
No, I purposefully led you down the wrong track there.
Just, talking about creatures,
yeah.
And you got any specific creatures in the game that you've designed that
yeah.
you're proud of?
Yeah.
You might not be able to talk about them yet, but
there's some I can't talk about, but I did do the stilt horse, who's the very, very tall giraffe-looking horse, striped, long-legged guy. Yeah, he's had like 5 different names. Like every team that touches him like calls him something different, and I think finally Patrick, our game director, was like, the stilt horse. Like, I called him the tall guy when I was making him. But I think he's really funny. I more go with like a personality to the characters I design. You know, with the stilt horse, I was giving the pitch of, we want a large creature that can be used as a blocker and also kind of fit into a large area of the world. And he can kill you, but only if you aggro him first. Like, if you attack him, he's just going to defend himself, but he's very peaceful. So I got to kind of like run a little wild with him, and I really liked it, and I really liked creating this kind of slow, a little more intelligent, gentle creature who like did not want to be attacked, obviously. I did the fly hoppers as well that are in the forest. They were in an earlier demo. They jump and spit spitballs at you. And so what was interesting with them is we had an existing creature that was like a little glowing, exploding larva that had been concepted long, long ago before I started. It was probably one of the earlier monsters. And so they're like, hey, you know, it's been a couple years and now we want the evolution of that larva. So that was actually kind of fun for me to interpret the next, like, take the world into account, take the setting into account, take what's already there, and then just what would be the next possible evolution state. And so it's this big hulking bug with tiny little wings, and it can't really hold itself up super well. And that actually created an opportunity. I worked with the programming guys working on like the AI. It was interesting because we had the idea that they couldn't fly for long because their wings are really stupid. So they hop, and they fly hop in short bursts. And that actually gave this sense of depth to our game because we kind of have more of an isometric camera. And it's one thing when you have monsters moving on the same plane as you, but it's different when you have monsters kind of hopping to different levels in the environment. It helps create a sense of space. And so I enjoyed working with different disciplines that I wouldn't normally work on for that. So yeah, those I think are my two favorite guys I designed. I do like goofier. I'm always drawn to like stupider characters, and so I feel like I really love designing the creatures, and I feel like all the creatures I designed are like some part stupid, some part goofy, and I really like that, and I hope other people do too.
I know I took a couple swings at duck deer yesterday.
Oh, good. You monster.